we are going to kick it over to Lindsey. And Lindsey and I met through a mutual friend. Actually, we met through Mr. Chavis, and he spoke with us last month at the Mastermind. So I'm really glad that he introduced us. And again, I should have probably had your bio already, but that's no fun. I would love for you to give us your background and tell us how did you get to where you are today, and then share with us what you're working on.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I still have Pilot EDU up on my screen, so Chase, I'm going to share a slide deck, and so if you can give me permission to do that, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. I am Lindsey Blackburn. Thank you all for being here today. I am excited to bring you some information about indoor air quality. So we're really taking a shift here from what we were just talking about. I have a background in education. I was a high school teacher, and then I worked at a nonprofit helping charter schools. And then I went independent. And I have always been in the education space, really as a school improvement specialist. If you would like to connect on LinkedIn, happy to do that. And that's what I call myself, a school improvement specialist. But what falls under school improvement? Oh, lots of things. And so traditionally, I have served more as a professional development provider, curriculum, instruction, assessment, data analysis. I have a particular expertise in PBL, which is project-based learning, which overlaps a lot these days with STEM and STEAM and deeper learning and inquiry-based learning. And that's probably a topic for another day. And recently, as in COVID times, I started repping products to schools and businesses for that matter. I have a keen life goal of wellness. And so in a variety of ways, the products that I rep help schools with wellness. And also, to be frank, we also rep products for safety and security. We're all former superintendents, administrators, and teachers. So we have a particular sense on where the confusion is in the marketplace and how to vet products and how to simplify the process for schools and administrators and business owners. We don't just sell the product to you and then disappear. We help you implement it and make sure that you're taken care of all the way through. Personally speaking, this has been a very difficult gig for me because I am not a salesperson. I can't close a deal if my life depended on it, but I am an educator, and a lot of sales is teaching. So I try to present information in a way, again, that's simple, that's vetted, and that makes things easy for you. My number one goal is never to waste the time of a teacher or administrator. So that's how, sort of my heart and my perspective. I also have small children. They are 9, 7, and 4. And one of the things that I'm very proud of is all of these products I would immediately put in my own kids' school. That's always something that we have said at DriveMind, that we won't rep a product unless we will want it in our own kids' school. So that being said, Chase asked me to come chat about clean air technology. And it's something that is a little tricky. And having trouble getting my slide deck up. Let me see. One sec.
While you're working on that, I just wanted to input something. And I know I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I'm sure. But we brought in Lindsey very specifically. This is the section that we're calling Curated for you. And it's not something that I take lightly. Lindsey and I have had, I don't know, Lindsey, 4 calls, 5 calls in preparation to make sure that we had the right thing, that it's the right service, that it's the right product, that it's not something that's going to waste people's time, but that it's something that has been vetted and is applicable both for schools and or for offices. I know some of us aren't in schools every day anymore, but this one specifically could absolutely be implemented into an office structure as well. So,
as well as
again,
your home. As well as your home, yeah.
And yeah. So all that to say, this isn't just some random person coming to sell you something. This is something that we've curated and we've done our background on. So you're in good hands. So anyway, Lindsey, take it away.
Thanks. So I'm going to talk about two things today. And just to preface this, I'm not a scientist. And so if you are, and you have some sciencey, like real sciencey questions for me, I will say, I don't know, but I will find out and I will get you the answers that you need. So bear with me here. I love starting out with this image because air is hard. You can't see it. It's not like dirt on a tabletop or a floor, so I guess sometimes you can feel the air if it's like, humid or if there's fans on or something like that. But air is just a very hard thing to even understand and you can't visualize it. So the reason I start out with this visual is because this is a machine that measures air quality. It's very interesting. The yellowed circle is the size of the particles that are floating around in the air. So this is measured in microns. So 0.5, 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, to give you a range or an idea of that, a point of references. Viruses are 0.1 or 1 or lower. So that 0.5 you see there, and the 1, those are very small, like virus particles. Pollen is around a 1, a little higher than that. Dust is around a 5. And then 10 is like sand. Okay. Does that help sort of with the visual of like what is floating around or blowing around in the air? The middle circle, the middle section there, the blue that's circled, this is someone's air being measured by a device, which I'll talk about in a minute. And this is the particle, the load that is in this particular air. So what are you seeing? Most of you are on mute. I understand if you want to unmute and participate, that's cool. What are you seeing here? What is this area having trouble with? The smallest things, right? So like the viruses. So this is a big concern and they want to try to reduce that. So the green and red.
Does it say 176,000?
Yeah, is the particle load in this air right here. Sometimes just to give you a different perspective, like if you go into a really old facility where there's like a lot of molds and mildews, you'll see the range vary, right? So it'll fall more like in the middle section. If you took this machine, it wouldn't work so well out at the beach. But if you took this out to the beach at a different day and there was sand blowing around, it would show you something different. So these can all vary based on the air that's inside. Now, I debated sharing with you some facts about clean air and indoor air quality, but there are things that you can't unlearn. And I didn't want to scare you. Once you learn about what's in your indoor air, it's really frightening, and you kind of, it can give you some anxiety. It's kind of like learning about what's in your food, and that 90% of the grocery store is basically absolute garbage. Is similar for our air. It is often said that our indoor air quality is worse or much worse than our outdoor air quality. Okay. So let's carry on. When thinking about classrooms, and I know this group is talking about schools and also office buildings or homes, we want to aim for some things. This is, the image here on the left is like a little kid classroom, and then on the right is more of a lecture style or a high school kind of modular classroom. We want to be thinking about cubic. So it's not just like the air that's, around you, like a bubble or whatever. It's the air in the whole space. So if you have high ceilings, there's air floating around there. But most of the issues, this is sciencey stuff, but most of the issues hover at like 9 feet and below, just as a fact. But we want to be concerned with the whole space. So I want you to think beyond just like a flat surface and think about what cubic means, right? Okay. We want infection prevention. So if someone sneezes, we want something that's like protecting other people from getting those kinds of microbes or pathogens. Okay. We want infectious control. So we want to be able to control it, all the time, essentially. And we want overall facility wellness. We don't want people coming to our school and getting sick. I talked about my 4-year-old goes to daycare. we don't go many other places, as we didn't, especially like a year and a half ago when it was still kind of COVID times, and he would get sick all the time. Well, he was getting sick at that facility. It wasn't like, we were going out and about seeing a million people. So to me, this was lacking at his school, this concept of facility wellness. And this is a big deal. And it's not just kids, it's every adult, it's every person in that space. It's every animal in that space. And I'll take it a stretch further. It's every living thing in that space. Even plants can benefit from reducing the particles in the air. So something kind of big picture to think about. So an ideal clean air technology is going to do these things for you. It's going to offer you 24/7 protection if you need it and want it to, if you're in the space that much. It's going to be safe, obviously, and non-toxic. You don't want to be using an air technology that's making it worse or is dangerous in some way. You want it to be safe and making the facility healthier. Tailored to your needs, meaning you can adjust it, you can change it. It has options for you. Proof that it's working. So how are we measuring the clean air or the air quality? And you want it to be low cost. If you buy a clean air technology and then you have a $200 filter that you have to replace like once a month, that was not a that's not a good investment, right? Because you may have saved some money up front buying a product, but then the maintenance of the product is expensive. So that doesn't work either, especially for schools. And you need it to be compliant. So there's lots of checks, whether it's fire code or building office code, whatever that may be. Maybe your particular business or organization has rules around, whatever it may be. There's so many things these days of the checklists of things you have to meet and comply with. And this technology does that. So to give you a better sense of how it works, I'm going to play this brief video. I don't even have the sound on, but I don't think it matters. If the sound is on, that's fine. But I want you to just get a visual of what this looks like. In DriveMind group is what we're called. So these are some kids coming out of their classroom. We want to keep our kids healthy and safe. Here are the pathogens floating around in the air, the red visual. This is an example of an air purification technology that can be hung on the wall, and it's emitting something into the air. And that's what I'm going to explain next. What is it? What is that it's emitting into the air, and what is it doing? Okay.
It's more than just protection. It's peace of mind.
So the product that we rep is from a company out of Dayton, Ohio. I myself live in Ohio, and it's pure coincidence that the company that we chose is in Dayton. We researched for 9 months. This was during COVID, which clean air technologies would be best for schools in particular. And so we really, like Chase said, we really vetted the marketplace. And we went with extreme microbial technologies. These products are made in the USA. The technology is relatively new, but not really. It's been developing over the years. And of course, COVID really put an accelerator on the development of the technology and the release of it and the welcoming of it as well. So this can be plugged in. Actually, all the units are plugged in. They all require electricity. They can go inline HVAC. So if you put it up in your vents, like I have a picture here, whether your vents are square or rectangle or round, they would come out and fit these to your vents. And depending on how many lines of HVAC you have running in your office space, your home, or your business, they would decide how many of these units you would need for your business. This will run 24/7 if you have your air on 24/7. At home, I have this at my house. I don't have my air on 24/7, but if I wanted to, because my kiddos were sick or we were all home for Christmas break together, I could run my air 24/7, and this would be helping to reduce all the particle loads. You can also
ask a question about that?
Yeah, sure.
Does the condenser have to be running, or just the fan?
Just the fan.
For this to be effective?
Just the fan.
Okay.
Yeah. You can hang it on the wall. So these are mobile. This one that kind of looks like a record player here in the middle is pretty portable. It's about the size of I have a binder right here, about the size of a binder or maybe a laptop, a little thicker than that, like a record player. And it can be put on a bracket on the wall. So again, it's emitting like you saw in the video. And then the other unit there that's about the size of a trash can, that's called the Twin because it has 2 cells inside of it. And it's great for like a cafeteria or a gym. They all cover different amounts of square footage. But I am going to use the term square footage loosely because it's actually measured again in cubic feet. We're trying to fill the space. We have to know the measurements of the room all the ways. That makes sense. Okay. They can also be put on a mobile cart, which you see schools, wheel around technology around the school. If you wanted to take them to the cafeteria and then you had a play going on at night in the theater, you could move them in there and everyone would be benefiting from the clean air technology. And that's a good point that I haven't made yet. Things have gotten quite political, as you know, and I'm just going to say this, whether you are pro-mask or anti-mask, red or blue, young or old, whatever, clean air technology helps you. It helps everybody. And so it's not much of a political issue, but people like to make it as such, but it is helping everyone no matter what. So here's where I get a little sweaty because I have to talk about the science. So I'm just going to keep it simple as I explained. This technology is called hydrogen peroxide plasma. Okay, what the heck is that? If you are a chemist or an engineer, or you happen to be a chemical engineer, then you will understand this. If you are not any of those things, then you'll be in my boat, which is kind of like, okay, sounds good. The air comes through, it's going to come into the machine, right? Either through the inline HVAC or it's going to be just floating in the air. The particles are going to become charged. They're going to go through the device and be lit up by UV, a level of UV that is effective in this particular case. There is a metal catalyst of some sort inside the cell, and this puppy spits out hydrogen peroxide. Okay. Hydrogen peroxide is safe for all. And what hydrogen peroxide is able to do is it latches on to the pathogens and the stuff floating in the air, and it is able to disable the cell. So essentially it like eats away at the membrane of that, and it can't carry on with its life, if you will. So it's getting stuff in the air, but what's also cool about this is getting stuff on surfaces as well. This is an active clean air technology. I'm going to repeat that. You're like, what does that even mean? Why does that matter? Folks, we have been using passive clean air technologies, which are filters. Air has to pass through the filter to be cleaned. That's not happening here. This thing is emitting hydrogen peroxide into the air. It is actively pursuing the things. Does that make sense? Okay. So there are very few technologies that do this, and EMT is so confident in their ability to do this safely and effectively that they created this comparison chart of other types of technologies. So photocatalytic, traditional PCO, again, I'm not a scientist. Ionization is another way to use a similar kind of technology with UV light, except it's expensive and it doesn't do large spaces well. So that's a lot of schools have invested in bipolar ionization. Not a good fit. UV is effective, but for small things, like have you seen those UV ovens where you can like put your phone in there and like sanitize your phone? Okay, cool for that. Not great for like cleaning up school air. HEPA filters, again, completely passive, and ozone is not doing all the things that extreme microbial technologies is doing either. So if you're in the market for this type of thing, this is a great chart to kind of see, what am I looking for? What are the things that I might be missing as I explore other types of technologies? Okay. constantly have the question, does it work? And is it safe? So does it work? Yes, we've had third-party validation studies done by multiple universities and other types of entities that do third-party validation studies. So we're talking about 99.9% of things that it's cleaning up. The viruses, again, are really small. Filters aren't catching those at all. It'd be like throwing, this is like the best comparison. Like a basketball net, if you took a pea and you threw it through a basketball net, that's what we're trying to catch. Like we're trying to catch this small virus particle through like a filter. It's just going right through. We're spending all this money on filters that aren't actually doing what we need them to do. So that's why this type of technology is important. And I like that comparison. It's also getting molds, mildews, allergens, and VOC, which are volatile organic compounds, which are typically floating around in our air just because if you have new carpet, new furniture, new paint, anything like that, it's emitting VOCs. Again, I didn't want to be in scare tactic mode and telling you all the crap that's in your air at the same time. It's very important that you understand you could be eliminating these issues almost entirely. I'll give you a great example of an unexpected use of this type of solution. Any facility that processes food or is growing plants. So Extreme Microbial Technologies has done unbelievably well in cannabis grow facilities. Cannabis plants have to be tested like a zillion times. And it's also very expensive for the cannabis companies if they lose any product, as you can imagine. So we're saving cannabis companies like zillions of dollars because they have almost no plant loss. Okay. Similarly, another facility that grows lettuce, an indoor grow facility in Georgia that grows lettuce, has installed this facility wide because it's eliminating any types of issues with the plants. Isn't that cool? Okay. We're also being asked if it's safe. This chart, someone had to explain this to me because I wasn't getting it. OSHA, you've heard of before. They monitor like on-site health issues, safety and health issues, as well as the EPA. Everybody knows the Environmental Protection Agency and the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. They have certain levels that they say are okay for different areas and things. And you can see the breakdown here. They have these cutoff levels. ppm is parts per million. Again, don't want to get too sciencey on you, but parts per million. You can see here that these are that's the max they say is safe. And you can see where EMT is falling. So you're like, oh, well, it's emitting hydrogen peroxide. Like, is that even safe? Only OSHA has a maximum that can be, consumed or taken in by humans. And we are clearly way below the max. And you can see that's true here as well for the ozone. If you know what ozone is, I'm not going to get into that, but ozone is an option in these units. It does produce a slight smell, but it makes it even more effective. So I don't have ozone in my unit in my home because I don't particularly like the ozone smell. But if you were in a very stinky facility, like a locker room or something, it would be smart to get the units with the ozone because it would just help that much more to eliminate the concerns. Does that make sense? All right, we're in the home stretch here. How do you measure your air? I showed you this visual. How did they even get these measurements from before? And there's a unit called the BAMS unit, the Bioaerosol Monitoring System. And it's like the size of a boombox. This is a $50,000 machine. I didn't know that at the time. I was like, oh, can you pop up to this school and like measure their air? And then can you go over there and measure their air? Just one day when you're driving around and they're like, we don't usually take the BAMS unit out very much because it's an expensive tool, but it can capture the chart that I showed you earlier. The goal is to get these levels below 50%. So after you run your EMT machine, let's say they ran it for 10 minutes, they could measure with the BAMS unit and say, oh, all the things that are circled in green went down below a measure of 50%, but the things in red are still concerned for you. So let's run the EMT for like another hour, and then we'll test it again with the BAMS unit and see if it went down. So I promised you I'd tell you what those green and red circles are. And that's the explanation there. Okay, moving right along. There's also a cheaper way. The BAMS unit is $50,000 and they're not taking a lot of places. This is the Canary. There are other types of clean air monitoring systems out there, but this is the most affordable and also while being effective unit that we have found, and it works great in conjunction with EMT. So it's a little USB. It can be wired or wireless depending on your building and your technology, and it will send you texts or alerts or emails to whomever needs to receive them, administrators or maintenance folks, etc. Or if you just have this in your home. And it can detect, one of the things that's most popular for in schools is detecting vape. So kids are typically vaping in the bathroom or the hallway, you know, in the whatever storage closet or where they're finding these spots. You could have a Canary installed and it would alert and alarm you about those levels. But again, it does all particle sizes, and I'll show you that in a second. I've had people say, oh, well, kids will just destroy them. There are a way to put boxes or cages around them so that that minimizes that concern. But they're still effective in detecting a change in particle size in the air. So this is what the monitoring looks like from Canary. You can have multiple units connected to the monitoring, so you can see across your building or across your different spots in your home or your office. It shows everything in real time, but you can also see over time. And it analyzes, again, the different size particles that we were talking about. And it has its own system of air quality index. So it's unhealthy versus healthy. I live in Ohio. We're having quite a bit of smoke from the Canadian wildfires. And this would be a good thing to test out over the last couple of weeks, how the air was working, and what my unit here in my home was able to do for us in terms of mitigating. I personally don't have a Canary yet, but it would be a good investment. So that's it. That's pretty much it. You're probably already thinking, wow, there's a lot of benefits here. I have summarized them in a top 10 list. And I'll review that real quickly. I think I'm doing okay. We went a little over with Berks, but and so I'm going a little over. I apologize, Chase. But hopefully you're finding this information useful. Clearly, we talked about its effectiveness in attacking and reducing all the things that we need to worry about. It's reaching all surfaces, anywhere that air is flowing in that cubic square footage. We're able to resample the environment and see its effectiveness. These machines and devices require very little effort, and there's flexibility on how you can install them and where you can install them. This can be a very competitive marketing point, particularly for a school. Like my kids' daycare, I'll come full circle with this conversation. I'm like, guys, you'd be the only daycare in town with actual like effective clean air technology. And when obviously that's, it's a selling point for fall, winter, and really any season, considering my kid was just sick 2 weeks ago, that this could be very helpful for that. Affordable, considering the alternatives I mentioned, like the other type of technology, bipolar ionization, is not affordable, or some kind of technology where you have to update the filters, once a month, and they're expensive. That's not the case here. There is things that don't get me wrong, there are some things that you need to replace, clean, or update. I can answer that question if anyone has it. Safe for all, of course, peace of mind, and working with an organization like DriveMind, you would get support along the way, and not be left high and dry by some company that sold you something and then walks away. So that's pretty much it. Again, Lindsey Blackburn with DriveMind. Happy to answer any questions. And if they come in after the fact too, I'll share my contact information.
Yeah, we would definitely love, and I think you've got a note there from Tilly, but I would love for you to share how people can get in contact with you, specifically because we will have more people watching this recording that couldn't be here because it's right before school starts or whatever, but they will likely have questions. So how do they get in touch with you?
Yep, I'll type my info in the chat. I'm very active on LinkedIn. This is stuff I talk about all day long to schools, and I'm happy to chat more, answer any questions coming in. Side note, if you so happen to live in Ohio, just by chance, there is a grant that the Bureau of Workers' Comp has released, up to $15,000 for this type of install. So I'd be happy to chat with you about that. We have the grant all filled in. You would just put in your school information, and it's all the way pre-K through university. If you're not in Ohio, I would encourage you to look at indoor air quality options or funding. And sometimes I think even depending on your school and the culture there and your parent engagement and involvement, sometimes this money can just be raised organically. Look, we're trying to keep everybody healthy and in school as much as possible, including our staff. What can you kick in? Depending on, how you do there, you might just need to fill some gaps after that. So yeah, happy to chat more. I'm going to put my info right now in the chat. And yeah, any other questions?
Yeah, I think the note from Tilly is probably something good to follow up on. She's got a pretty good network, and a lot of families that are immunocompromised are looking for things like this, or that's on the top of their mind when they're looking at school options. So definitely good to connect on that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Lindsey, thank you so much for being here. We're really, really glad that you're able to share this information with us, and I'll make sure that your contact info goes out in the show notes with everything else that is a part of the recording.
Perfect.
So,
awesome.
Folks, if you're looking, look for it there.